Coming up this week on the Course of Life podcast, we're recapping Masters Week in November, where DJ rolled, Tiger made a 10, Bryson was tamed, and a whole lot more. Plus everything we're tuned into outside of sports, including the 2020 version of the Thanksgiving Day Parade. This week's guest is the Kosher Panda. You know her from Instagram or TikTok. Fantastic golf personality that's just taking up the game. We get into her journey and everything she's doing as well. Plus we finish with football talk and part 3 of our Thanksgiving menus and a debate on side dishes when we hashtag #AlwaysEndWithFood. All of it brought to you by our friends at FlightScope. And Mike, I talk about the Mevo unit and just how dang simple it is to get one of these things and get it deployed in your backyard. You can buy the Mevo unit now. Promo code COL10 for 10% off. This thing is basically like all the golf data you need, right, in a pocket-sized device that's smaller than your phone. You can take it to you for your backyard workouts. You can take it to the range or the course. Get yourself dialed in the right way with the FlightScope Mevo unit from FlightScope.com. Again, our promo code COL10 for 10% off your Mevo today.
Hello, interwebs, and welcome to Course of Life, part of the Morning Read Podcast Network. We are proud to be presented by our friends at Desert Fox Golf and Groove It Golf. I'm Michael, he's Alex. And Alex, it was a Masters week unlike any other in the middle of November.
Yes.
And I mean, there was so much happening, but ultimately, DJ put on a clinic, shooting 65-70, 65-68, rolled to a 5-shot victory, 20 under, lowest ever score at the Masters to win. This was a pretty incredible week in terms of scoring. What did you think of it?
It was, and you and I say this whenever we have a Dustin Johnson win, and I feel like we've done this synopsis a few times in this podcast, where when Dustin Johnson decides he wants to win a tournament, I don't think there's anyone else in the game that does it in as dominant a fashion as he does. You know, Dustin Johnson wins are very commanding. I saw one at the Dell Match Play myself a few years back here in Austin. When he decides he just wants to kind of crush the ball and take a stranglehold of a venue, he can do that, and he showed it this week at Augusta. Just, you know, one of those guys that we say it over and over again, like when they're at their best, how good can they be? Dustin Johnson's at the top of that list.
Yeah, and you know, it was interesting because we were talking about, was he going to have some sort of implosion? Were we going to see what has almost become expected to happen on the back nine at Augusta, to have someone just explode and not do well at all? And DJ was able to just keep rolling. He maybe gave a shot back here or there, or someone got close to him, and then he was able to turn it back on again. His back nine was fantastic as well. You know who did implode on the back nine, though?
Oh, yes, our buddy Eldrick.
Yeah.
What an unbelievable back nine scorecard for anyone who missed this on Sunday. Unbelievable stuff. Let's start with the monstrosity at the par 3 12th hole, right?
Yeah, the best thing I saw came out on Twitter around Tiger's 10 on the par 3 was stop the count.
Yes, stop the count. Exactly. I don't know where have I heard that before. That sounds so familiar. Yeah, but it was getting ugly. I tweeted out the shot tracer of all of the 10 strokes on the par 3 12th hole. Ladies and gentlemen, for the people who don't golf a lot listening out there, Tiger Woods took 10 shots on a golf hole that was about 150 yards, a little bit longer than a pitch and putt par 3. At Augusta, absolutely loomed.
He did what? 3 balls in the water?
Yeah, and the bunker mess and in the shrubbery, and it was all over the place. He elegantly said, "Yeah, I didn't trust the wind on that shot." Oh. Yeah. Which one, Tiger? Because there were a lot of them, unfortunately. But the unbelievable thing we have to shout out when we talk about the resiliency of Tiger Woods, even at this age, like, he made the 10 at the 12th hole on Sunday. He was already well out of the tournament, could have just absolutely folded and no one would have even batted an eye, but he did not. He hunkered down and birdied 5 of the last 6 holes after making that 10 for an all-time back nine scorecard. I think it was like a top 30 or 40 finish for Tiger, but overall that was a wild stretch for him.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible to see. I think maybe that 10 just let him know it didn't matter anymore. So he played relaxed the rest of the round. And it was interesting what Tiger said, and a lot of these other guys said too, was how the course played very different from before. Everyone is missing putts on the high side. Those that were missing putts, which were some of those names maybe that we expected at the top of the leaderboard. Some of them were, some of them weren't. Let's talk about Bryson real quick. He was really not a thing to worry about at all during the week.
Not a factor. And it came down to the short game as well, too, in addition to his driver being not where it needs to be in terms of accuracy. And you and I remember from our younger days, we played on a lot of wetter, softer courses in fall conditions. And when you're on those greens, like what you just said a moment ago, you just don't need to play as much break sometimes. Sometimes you just want to hit it a little harder and just right at the cup, and the rest will take care of itself in golf. It can be that simple. And I feel like a lot of the players were overreading putts, like you mentioned. Bryson got way too far in his head with a lot of the decisions he made off the tee, and the driver was just spraying everywhere. It was not a good week for Bryson, so much so that 63 years young, Bernhard Langer played with Bryson head to head and straight up beat him on Sunday. What an amazing statement for the game of golf in Augusta.
You got Bernhard Langer, who can hit the driver maybe about 250 right now.
Yes,
and Bryson hitting it 450.
It was the averages I think were and there was another stat where Sandy Lyle averaged 247 off the tee. Bryson averaged 334, and they both shot the same score on Thursday.
Yeah,
Friday.
It's just golf. It's a crazy game. Like we said, the course playing different. I do want to shout out Cameron Smith, Sanjay M, and Fratelli, the young guys out there who were just hanging around. And if Dustin Johnson wasn't playing as well, we would have been having one of these guys don a green jacket, I think, for sure.
All of them did double digits under par. Think that like, oh man, I'm going to shoot 15 under par in the Masters and not even be close to winning.
And not win. Yeah. Cameron Smith, of course, now the only player in the Masters history to have all 4 rounds in the 60s, which is also pretty incredible. What did you think of the other big names on the top of the leaderboard real quick? Justin Thomas and Rory McIlroy. McIlroy, a great comeback from an opening 75 to be tied for 5th.
Again, with the backdoor Rory stuff. He just kind of stumbles out of the gate. He loses track of the tournament. You can't win the tournament on Thursday, but you can lose it. And that's been the theme for Rory the last couple of years. He plays bad early, gets back into form as the weekend comes around. And then there it is again. Another backdoor top 10 in a major. They read his stats in the Masters or something like 5th, 7th, 5th, 8th, 6th. It's like, all right, that's great. Great for the wallet and whatnot. But he's not getting himself in that real prime contention to get that career Grand Slam at this point.
Yeah, and Justin Thomas, who looked really good early in the week, opening with a 66, was right at the top of that leaderboard. And of course, going into the weekend, you had the top 3 players in the world, top of the leaderboard. He just wasn't able to put in a good weekend like Dustin Johnson was.
Same with Rahm, too. And then DJ prevailed and just looked absolutely dominant. Again, I hark back to it, but when DJ wants to take control of these tournaments, he really can. And his driving was impressive, to say the least. He looked so unflappable out there, which made the post ceremony even all the more amazing, because you never see the type of emotion you saw from Dustin Johnson when he was getting donned the green jacket and talking about his family and how hard he works. And that was a truly innocent moment for DJ, a guy who we think and we call such a stone face with zero personality. We finally got a glimmer into that as he won the Masters and how much it meant to him.
Yeah, I think that the weight of the tournament, and also just Jim Nantz and Butler Cabin is just able to ask the right questions out of these guys and get them to say the right things.
Yeah.
The most memorable line maybe in Butler Cabin that he was able to get was Bubba Watson saying, "I never got this far in my dreams." And he was able to get something similar at a DJ around the extent of, it still feels like I'm dreaming, I think was the line he said. So a pretty, for DJ, an emotional win.
Thoughts on the kind of the broadcast and just the whole November vibe for the Masters? It was very interesting. I know you were very impressed with the digital front. So why don't you talk to me about what you liked about that?
I got to back up for a second here and just let you know, I talked to you about this a little bit, that I have a friend who's been on the podcast, Ben Shapiro. I think he was one of our very first guests we got on here.
Right, yes.
Back in the day when we didn't know what we were doing. And he was actually there working the production for CBS.
So cool.
They have just 18 different production trucks there, 115 cameras. They have the minimum of 5 cameras per hole. And this is what allowed for the unprecedented digital coverage that you got to see on masters.com, where you could watch any group pretty much at any time on any hole, and just unbelievable.
You were just flabbergasted. You kept tweeting me and messaging me about this all weekend. You're just like, this is awesome. I can watch this on my lunch break. I can watch this when I'm walking between places. Like, I can pull up exactly what I want right now. This was the most on demand, at your fingertips golf watching experience ever to this date.
It's just, this is what happens when you have a tournament that has an unlimited budget and owns every aspect of the production, like the Masters does in Augusta National. This is just being done by the network, they're not going to spend the money. So, but this is what I'd love to see on every single major tournament, is this kind of extensive coverage that makes it massive. That, as our guy Ben told me, hands down the biggest TV production in the world that happens at Augusta National every year. And we're going to see it again in 5 months. So
that's exciting. 2 Masters in a row. We've said that before. So awesome. Yeah. So you just put the PGA and the RNA and the USGA on notice. We got to cough up the money for the cameras. We got to get the production right so we can duplicate that experience that we had as viewers. It was a little interesting on TV. Unfortunately, they were trying to work against football and get it finished early. And there wasn't a lot of daylight either. So they had to squeeze things in around some rain on Thursday, but they caught up when they needed to. You missed if you were just watching on TV, you would have missed the first tee shots for the Sunday leaders, which is a little tradition that I would have liked to see. But overall, the broadcast came off really seamlessly on CBS. The funny comment that I got to shout out, I got to shout out my wife, because she was watching and she knows in Masters years past how immaculate and perfect the course is supposed to be. Well, that pine needles fall in the autumn months, and they were hitting the greens, and my wife just could not believe that there were pine needles on the greens at Augusta. What an insulting thought for Augusta National. Right. What,
of course, is hilarious is that they were still blowing the greens in between every group on there to try to get rid of them. So
they can't have a bad camera angle, Mike. You show pine needles, you're fired. The cameraman's fired.
Well, so here's a question for you. We'll ask this real quick as we wrap it up here. Was this autumn Masters less than, just as, or more beautiful than our typical spring Masters?
Oof. Well, I'm a sucker, and I think you are too, for foliage, just because we grew up in New England and left it. So it's one of those things you kind of, look back at nicely. So I'm a little sucker for it. So I would say just as to improved. It was a little hard for me, myself. I'm speaking more as a general sports fan. Yeah. That was in the midst of a full football weekend. And so while I did have attention on the Masters all 4 days, it was not undivided. And so that leaned to be tough for me, maybe the more casual sports fan. For the golf fan, though, what a treat it was to have it this time of year, and it went off really well.
It was really incredible, and we'll get it in 5 months, unencumbered by any football or anything, when we're back in April. I'm going to put it out there right now. I don't know if we're going to have fans there either. I think it could be exactly what you saw on the weekend is, members of the course, volunteers, enough to have a smattering of applauses here and there, and a little bit of an ovation at 18. But I'm guessing it'll probably be the same. Yeah. I did feel like this was the 1 week where I really missed fans out on the course, because the fans at Augusta are as much a part of this tournament as the players on the course are.
You heard it last week in the interview with Elizabeth Diane Martin. And if you haven't, check out last week's episode in the archives. No phones out there. You got to really communicate with everyone in the gallery, and you're really in tune and you're locked into everything that's going on hole by hole. So it's a very immersive experience for fans. Like I said, it's not looking great that we see them back in April, but hopefully we see some more and things are straightened out in a few months.
So that was the Masters this week, a event unlike any other, a tradition unlike any other. Shout out to DJ, finally getting his second major, still the number 1 player in the world, a green jacket on his shoulders. Let's move on to a couple other tidbits going on. There wasn't much else, of course, happening in the world of golf, but we did get an announcement from HBO Max coming out.
Oh, yes. This was very cool. Thanks for mentioning this right here. So I put this in our notes that there's going to be a 2-part, picture The Last Dance style documentary, a 2-part HBO Max documentary on Tiger. Just start to finish. Now, I know we got a little something with the Slam and we've seen things on the Golf Channel before, but when it's an HBO doc, it kind of goes a little bit to the next level. I'm really just more than anything curious to see who they have on to speak about Tiger and on behalf of Tiger. It's all about who you can get and which voices you can bring into the documentary to kind of get the full story of Tiger's life. But look forward to that. It's coming in January, and I'm definitely having my expectations high for that one.
So moving on to what's going on this weekend in the world of golf, the guys stay in Georgia. They're going to head just south of me to Sea Island, Georgia for the RSM Classic. Another beautiful course here in Georgia. It's not quite the heritage that you would see at Hilton Head, but it's not bad. It's not bad.
No, not at all. So just a refresher, last year, Tyler Duncan, very unknown name, got his first PGA Tour win. And as a result, you saw him in the Masters this past week as well, too. So this is a tournament because of where it sits on the schedule. It does spawn a lot of first-time winners. There's a lot of opportunity late in the PGA Tour season. Not a super loaded field by any stretch of the imagination, but saw guys like JT posting on social media driving out there for the week. So it should be good to see a little Sea Island, Georgia action. I guess climate-wise, Mike, how are things in Georgia these days? What are we looking at for late November Georgia weather for these guys?
Well, I mean, it's been an odd November here. This past week, we, of course, leading up to the weekend, we had a lot of rain as Hurricane Ada, or Tropical Storm Ada, rolled by. And then we were kind of in the high 70s, low 80s, really humid, and it's cooled down today. It's 70. It's supposed to get down into the 60s later this week here in Savannah. So go south an hour. It'll probably get a little bit warmer. You're going to have a sea breeze for sure. It's going to get a little cooler, a little bit more appropriate for November.
Yeah,
here.
The wind could whip for sure. So take a look at Course of Life 1 on Twitter. Wednesday afternoon is where I'll put my full card. I'm looking at Poston. That's one guy I can shout out here on the podcast that I think has a good chance to play well this week off the miscut at Augusta. So again, Course of Life 1 Twitter for my full set of picks for this week's RSM Classic.
Let's move over to Tuned In, where we let you know what we're tuning into outside of the world of sports. Of course, the Masters took up a lot of my time this past week. But one thing I was reminded of that my wife had us watch once again, second time I've seen this documentary, is a film called Finders Keepers. Let me just give you a couple taglines, Alex, on this.
Yes.
This was Tiger King before Tiger King.
Oh, wow. I'm intrigued. Okay.
So it's a custody battle over a amputated leg.
Oh, nice. So what's the value of the leg? I don't understand. Is it just going back on somebody?
You gotta watch it to find out. It's currently free on Amazon Prime, so it's a great way to go watch it.
So many questions. Nice tease there.
It is a great documentary. One of my favorites.
Good stuff. My Tuned In is what's coming up next week. I've been reading some articles because I'm a sucker for Thanksgiving. It comes right around your birthday week as well. Early birthday week. Shout out to you. It gets us going into the holidays. I love the big meal and cooking. And one of the Thanksgiving Day fixtures is going to look very different this year, Mike. The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Because of everything going on this year, it's not really going to happen in terms of a parade route outdoors with blown up balloons. There's still going to be balloons. There will still be floats and performances. However, it's going to be basically all at one venue. So they're just going to wheel them out onto camera. You're going to see what you see, and then the next thing will happen. I hope that there's some good production value put through on this. It's not quite going to be the same. But I just wanted to alert everyone ahead of time when you turn your TV on next week that the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade will have a little bit of a different look this year.
It's okay. It's just 2020.
Yeah, we'll live with it. Again, my main thing is that it's on. It's still going to be on. We still got the performances. I'm still going to get the vibes. Maybe we can just show some old crowd shots just for vanity's sake, and we'll have a nice thing.
Are they going to pipe in crowd noise like we're doing at sporting events?
Right, that would be great. I think it's 20. There's like a 25% capacity or something like that to like the venue itself, and they're testing people that are in there. And there's no one under the age of 18 or something like that. So there's all sorts of stipulations for the people that you will see in the crowd. But nonetheless, the Thanksgiving Day Parade going off with a couple of hitches this year.
Let's get into this week's guest. Alex, you had the chance to talk with a Instagram and TikTok star, the Kosher Panda.
Yeah, maybe, for the youngsters who are on TikTok, who are listening to this podcast as well, too. She's also on IG. And our connection is Connecticut. She lives in the area. She's got ties to Connecticut and the New York area. So we get into that and everything she's doing on her page. And it's a cool journey to watch someone take up the game from complete start to where she is now. And she's gone a long way in a short time.
We'll get to that conversation with her in just a moment. But first, as always, it's brought to you by Groove It Golf, makers of the Groove It Golf brush. It's been sold out and in high demand, but they are just about to turn the corner and put this back.
You can pre-order, Mike. You can now pre-order. That's the breaking news. So you can officially pre-order instead of the wait list now.
It's pretty incredible. No more of this waiting for an email. Just put your info in and get it. So as soon as they start shipping, you get it into your hands. And this is not your average golf brush. It's got a source of a little built-in pump that sprays water or cleaning solution onto your club face, so you can get a quick and efficient scrub on the course. It has detachable magnets that'll make it easier to use. So you can pop it right off your bag, no matter where you are. Instead of having to bring the club to the bag, you bring the brush to the club. And it's got a 3-year bristle guarantee. If you can wear out the brush head cleaning your clubs in 3 years, send it back and Groove It will get you a free replacement. So prepare to be amazed with the consistency and control that Clean Grooves will give you. Using your existing golf clubs with the Groove It, you'll get the spin, trajectory, and consistency you are looking for. So check out grooveitbrush.com. Pre-order the Groove It brush today. Again, that's grooveitbrush.com.
Next up on the tee, we have a golfer from Connecticut by way of New York City as well, who's fairly new to the game, but putting out some really great content on social media regarding her journey to get better every day. We have the Kosher Panda joining us on the Course of Life. How's it going today?
It's going well. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Absolutely. Glad to have you on the Course of Life. And I know your path to golf was a little bit different, like lots of people's is. I know you have a big background in tennis as well, too. Well, was that the first sport that you grew up playing?
Yeah. So I have like a tennis background. As a kid, sports were super big in the town that I grew up in on Long Island. In the suburbs, team sports are just something you basically start once you can start walking. Mm-hmm. So growing up, it was soccer, lacrosse, tennis. And then as I got older in high school, you kind of have to narrow down the sports you want to play. I really chose tennis. I enjoyed it the most and I felt like the most connected to it. So tennis is really what I focused on for the rest of high school, and honestly never took it very seriously, but I really enjoyed it and I was pretty good at it. But then I decided maybe it'll help me get into school, or just make my application a little stronger. So I ended up not actually going to school for tennis.
Okay.
But it was a really fun process going through that in general. So it was cool seeing how student athletes go through that, but I ended up not doing it.
No, that's cool. I appreciate the honesty too. I grew up in the Northeast as well, and everyone up there knows that, certain sports are for certain seasons, and I had to make the choice to, play golf instead of soccer when things got serious in high school, and you made similar decisions as well with the sport that you played. I'm curious, did you ever see a lot of golf growing up playing tennis? Because for lots of places, the country club, golf and tennis kind of go hand in hand, and they're often seen right next to each other. Did you ever pick up the club at that point when you were younger playing tennis, or was it not until recently?
I'm not gonna lie, golf was literally never on my radar until last summer. But I'm from Manhasset on Long Island, so the area of Long Island I'm from, there are a lot of really great golf courses. Bethpage is one of the ones that everybody knows and loves.
Oh yeah.
But wasn't familiar with any of that. I did have a lot of friends that belonged to clubs in town, like North Hempstead or Strathmore Vanderbilt Club, Plandome Club, and a lot of these have golf courses, but still never on my radar. My high school had a golf team, and I think I had one friend that played golf, but it just never was something I was exposed to because, the high school didn't have a golf course. So they would obviously go to somewhere in the area. So I would never see them walking around with their clubs at the high school. You just see everyone with their lacrosse sticks, their tennis rackets, their soccer balls, basketball, but golf kind of was removed. So if I saw it every day and I saw kids, practicing at the back of school, like maybe it would have been on my radar then, but I just never saw the golfers.
Interesting. Cool. Let's fast forward to that moment when you did find the game regularly starting last year. Was there a particular moment that inspired you to get out and play maybe on that day? Or do you have a first shot or round you remember where you kind of got hooked into playing the game more last year?
So my fiance actually introduced me to golf. He's not like a super serious golfer. He did it casually, picked it up late in life, like in his 20s. And so we were on vacation down in Palm Beach, and he took me to Banyan Golf Club, which is a absolutely stunning golf course. So much water, wildlife, birds, you name it. And it was a very rainy day. So when we went, it was around 3 and nobody was there because it had poured, but it had cleared out. There was not a cloud in the sky. Yes, the ground was soaking wet. We could not take carts, so we pushed. And it was just insane. Like being on a gorgeous, picturesque sunset twilight round by yourself on an empty course. There's absolutely nothing like that. And it's not that often you ever have a golf course to yourself. So that was like my first experience hitting a golf club. Yep. Did probably, hit majority of the balls in the water or in the trees. But I just remember the feeling I had being there with all like the birds making their sounds. It was so, I have like all these videos that I still have that I look at all the time. Just like, this is just a magical sport.
Yeah, that's a great memory. And you have the documentation too. Very cool. Yeah. I mean, like I would say to compile on that, whenever people ask me what's the nicest time of day to play golf, I was like, well, it's kind of nice to play in the morning, get the round done early in the day, but the nicest time to be outside and play golf is at twilight. So you had that, you had the obviously picturesque tropical setting, and having the course to yourself huge as well too. Nothing better than an empty course. That's a really cool way to get into the game. Now let's talk about like where you play now these days. You mentioned that you have ties to Connecticut and New York. You said a few courses in the Long Island area. There's obviously National Golf Link, Shinnecock, Bethpage, all the places that have hosted U.S. Opens recently. Where are some of maybe the cooler places that you've gotten to play or your favorite courses in the tri-state area?
So because I only started last summer, I haven't played that many courses. And also, since I'm also new to the game, I'm still learning about, what golf courses are out there. And it just amazes me how many there actually are.
Right.
And
yeah.
Connecticut is such a great golf hub because there are just so many courses, private and public. And what's beautiful about Connecticut is that the public courses are so nice. They're just so well kept. The greens are like impeccable. It's really nice. And and I think that's, says a lot about the quality of golf in Connecticut, tri-state area, New Jersey, New York. I mean, Bethpage is public and it's a absolutely fantastic course, which I have to go to one day. I still haven't taken a visit there, but it's hard for me to say golf courses that are my favorite because I've probably played less than 5. At this point.
Nice. Well, it's early. You're going to see a lot more of them very soon. And I've heard a lot of things about Bethpage as well. I heard you can get there like at the crack of dawn and like sleep early in the middle of the night in your car to get an early tee time. There's all sorts of shenanigans going on there. So I look forward to seeing you visiting.
Yeah, me too.
Let's talk about the content that you're making on social. I found you on Instagram originally. It's at the Kosher Panda. And one of the things that I appreciate, because a lot of us are quarantined, not quite spending as much time on the golf course maybe as we'd like to. I got myself a net for the backyard and it's done wonders for my game and my swing and just my life in general. You do a really good job of making hitting into the net look fun. Just talk a little bit about like the practice you get in with your net, and like do you have any tips to make the hitting into the net a little bit more fun for the average golfer who's thinking about getting one?
So I got my net, I think, end of March is when the New York City system decided that like teachers could and kids had to be home. Like we were the last possible people to be quarantined. So when that went down, I looked online. I was like, okay, I need a net. I need this and that. And so I got it and I just started, at this point, like I hadn't taken lessons yet. It was kind of just self-taught. So, I was going off of like a bunch of Instagram videos and like trying to mimic what I was seeing in my net. And to make it more fun, well, one, part of the fun was accidentally missing the net more than once.
Yep, I have done that. I've scared my neighbors a couple times already.
So a lot of the fun was that part, like accidentally hitting it into my neighbor's yard, and they have a bunch of kids and this huge trampoline. And I just like, because of quarantine, all the kids were home. So they were home every single day. I was home every day teaching online. And then I would go outside during my lunch break, hit a couple balls, run back inside, and then teach the rest of the day and then repeat. And their kids were always outside, like yelling at me and trying to distract me. They're like, oh, like, don't miss the ball. It was just, it was kind of just comical. Funny things just kept happening with the net. So like, I just kept developing these positive experiences, laughs, funny times. And it never felt like a chore doing it. It always was like fun for me to hit into a net, which might sound boring to some people, but I film myself like while I'm hitting. And recently I've been kind of showing what I do when I practice. Like I'll set up my tripod, I'll turn my phone so I can see the screen and see myself. And as I'm taking my club back, I'm looking to see if my wrist is hinging properly, where I am in my, like where my club is going. And that's helped me so much with feel, because like I'll feel myself hinge my wrist and then I'll look in the video and it's actually going the opposite direction. I'm like, what the heck? So watching it in time has been really helpful. And I know people, especially golfers, they like seeing like immediate results. And so when I film myself like this and really kind of just slow my swing down and just stalk my body as I'm swinging, I'm seeing results immediately. And I think that's one way to help yourself stay motivated while you're practicing in a net, which could otherwise be like a kind of tedious, boring task for some people. I just never felt that way. I think definitely I'm still at that phase where everything is exciting in golf.
I appreciate that excitement. And I love the way you explain things too. It's very easy to go months or years as a golfer and never really actually look at a video of your own swing and see what you're doing. You feel what you're doing, but you never see it. So just to take that moment to put the camera in the backyard with the net, do that little self-diagnosis, I'm sure that's helping your golf game for sure. One of the other cool things I got to note is you have a lot of really cool golf accessories in your content as well too. I've seen some cool putting surfaces that you've had in the backyard. You have a lot of different ways that you can make the game fun, even in your backyard when you're not at the course. What are like some easy tips that you have, or some cool purchases that you've made to kind of make your backyard setup better? Because a lot of people are looking at their backyards right now, that they're spending more time at them and seeing how they can be improved.
So I feel like this is definitely on a personal basis, like what you can and can't do depending on your space and, your resources and your budget for golf. And for me, like, I just like, I still am not over the fact that golf is literally like the most expensive sport ever, aside from like skiing. And, if you ride horses, obviously your horse is probably expensive, but, I do find that, like, yes, I did, like, some of the things that I have, like, you would have to purchase, like the net and the putting mat and things like that. But some of these tools that I got, like, I feel like I use every day. I use, for hours upon hours. And so I feel like it was so worth it, in my opinion. So, like, the essentials are obviously the net and the mat. And so what's interesting about the mat is that originally I had like the mat that came with the net, which is really small. And then it has like the 3 types of lies that you could hit off of, like the smooth one, the rough. And so that was hard to use because every time I hit it, it would like fly across the yard. So I invested in like that jumbo mat where I can stand on the whole thing. And it was such a big game changer, but that was really expensive because I got like the one that, like, I got a more expensive one because I knew that I was going to be using it every day. So it's really like invest in the products that you're going to use and that are going to work for you and be efficient for you. Because then, like, if I got like a crappier, like not expensive one, it would have been torn up in a month.
True.
So
that is exactly where I'm at right there.
With this big mat, it's all like trial and error, I feel like, because now with this big mat, I realize that having it above the grass, there's something a little off about hitting it. So what we're going to do in our yard now is we're actually going to pick up the grass, like cut a big square out of the grass and then put the mat in it, if that makes sense, like in the dirt. So it's level.
Yeah.
And then the surface you're hitting off of is different than if it was lying on top of the grass, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, you're reflecting the accuracy of what it's like out there on the course. That's good. Yeah, you're getting down to the nitty gritty for sure. I appreciate the detail oriented approach for sure. Again, it's the Kosher Panda on Instagram. One other platform I want you to talk about. It's time for a little bit of explain it to our older generation now. I know you're on TikTok and you post some fun content there. So for many of our older golfing audience members who are not familiar, explain what's going on out there, what those kids are doing on TikTok, and what kind of content people can see when they follow you there.
So I am going to be totally honest here. I just use TikTok to edit my videos for Instagram.
Oh, okay.
Like I don't actually use TikTok for TikTok purposes. I mean, I will respond if people comment on my videos but like, I don't actually follow anybody on TikTok really or anything like that. I follow a few golfers that I like their content. But what's great about TikTok is that these videos that you can make are short, they're engaging, and the golfers that I find that do it the best are ones that can get to the point in that amount of time. And so there's a lot of golf instructors who do like a fantastic job of that. I just use it to put music on, and then I use it for Instagram. I don't actually TikTok. TikTok is it's one of those things, like it's a rabbit hole. You go on it, and then the next thing you know, it's like nighttime.
Yep, it's just it's the constant scroll. I don't even follow anyone on there, but all of a sudden I'm watching 30 straight minutes of a dance that I don't know or even care about, but I'm here. You know, that's what TikTok does for you. We got to ask about your nickname, the Kosher Panda. I know a little bit of the background since I follow you on Instagram, and everyone else should, about how the nickname came to be. I love the way you kind of flipped it and turned it into something really positive. But just tell that story for our audience of how you got the nickname, the Kosher Panda.
Okay, I'll tell it quick. I'll do the quick version.
Perfect.
Middle school. There was a girl in the grade above me. I think I was in 8th grade. She was in 9th grade. We got into like an argument in the hallway, and she called me a kosher egg roll or something like that. Like we're, saying words to each other, just like, you're a kosher egg roll. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And, when it happened, I was like, well, that wasn't very nice. Like she obviously said that because, I'm Jewish and I'm Asian, kosher and egg roll. And I don't know, later in life, I realized like, why is that embarrassing? Like, why are you using that against me? Like, I'm Jewish and I'm Asian. You're not incorrect. And so as like an adult, I'm embracing, my culture and my background. And so that's where the Kosher Panda came from. And Panda is because I just thought, an egg roll wasn't, the cutest or most marketable name to have.
Amen to that. Yeah.
Pandas are a little cuter.
Definitely. I appreciate that background. One thing I want to bring up as a mutual friend of ours, I know that we are proudly sponsored by the Groove It brush. You talked about a lot of different accessories that you have, but I know you got a chance to try that brush out. Truly our favorite way to clean your golf clubs. What'd you think about that brush?
I am so upset that I lost mine.
I heard. Yeah, it's such a revolutionary product. When you lose it, it's like, oh God, how will I ever get it back? Right? It's so great. I love that brush.
It was so sad. I was using it, and then this is when I went to Minnesota for a golf trip, and I was on my college golf course for the first time ever. I used to run on it all the time in college and didn't even know it was a golf course. But, I mean, I did, but I didn't put it together that like people play golf on it. So it was such a great experience playing there. But they have like those old school gas like golf carts that are like super fast and a little bit hard to turn. Like if you turn too fast, you'll flip over. So, and the course is really, dirt and bumpy, and it's just like, it wasn't the groove it brush's fault. It was definitely my fault, because that was the same day I almost flipped into a sand trap. A bunker, sorry. And that was like, so I'm very sad I lost my groove it brush, because I ended up not wiping my clubs off for like months after that.
Yeah, we'll get one back out to you for sure. I'll talk with the team there. But yeah, the bumpy golf cart terrain, it can be a damaging thing for the accessories attached to your bag. So watch out there if you're hitting up the clubs with that type of terrain. And I'm glad that you avoided the bunker as well too. Want to talk about GOATs, because we love having the sports conversation of who's the greatest all time and this, depending on what sport you love. Let's talk about maybe golf and tennis, whether it's your favorites or who you think is the greatest of all time. Who do you absolutely love watching the most in golf and in tennis?
Right now, I feel like this is probably, like so many people say this, but I really do think that Tiger Woods is the GOAT. And I also believe that from a personal standpoint, not just his athletic standpoint, but I think like his story is something to really look at as like, someone who like had like a fall from grace, but then redeemed himself and came back, I think is such a, just a classic story that is so admirable, especially for young athletes who, look up to these, idols, and he has a great story. And then for tennis, Nadal.
Yeah, shout out to the French Open. His dominance at the French Open is probably one of the most underrated achievements in all of sports. I mean, it's just like the fact that I've lost count about how many French Opens he's won, but if you place that over to golf, imagine Tiger Woods winning 10, 15 plus Masters. Like we're amazed at the 5 that he already has. To see him do double that would be just getting close to what Nadal's done at the French Open. So I appreciate Rafa for sure. And our final question for you with the Kosher Panda on Instagram, TikTok, and all that good stuff is our 19th hole question. So I know that you've had some conversation on social recently about how you're not too sure how much you want to be drinking on the golf course, but let's talk about after the round. When you get into the clubhouse, what is your go-to pick for like a meal and a drink of choice you like to have after you're done golfing?
Okay, so either transfusion or a south side for sure for drinks. Nice. This is so funny because this is what I posted about today about drinking on the course. But yeah, so that, and then for food wise, definitely something meaty and hearty. I feel like after 18 holes, whether you walk or cart, like you're eating good afterwards. Like you want to fill your belly. So anything kind of like savory, and whether it's a burger or a steak or something like that, any of that would be good. But golf and drinking, I'm all for in moderation for myself. And then tennis and drinking is an absolute hard no. And I experienced that myself. And it was, I was seeing like 2 balls at once coming out.
Oh yeah. The interval running in tennis is like unmatched. So that definitely is not good for a drinking stomach. Yeah. There is that fine line in golf though, where you can have like, 1 or 2, maybe 1.5 drinks and things are feeling all right. But maybe once you get to like that third is when things start going downhill for me. So you're right. There's a very fine line there. Good stuff. Honestly, really great conversation with you. Thanks for joining the Course of Life, the Kosher Panda. Hit him straight and keep working at the game. All right.
Thank you so much for having me.
That interview with the Kosher Panda is brought to you by Desert Fox Golf, the makers of the Phone Caddy. It's a one-of-a-kind phone holder for golfers designed to mount right onto the golf cart. The Phone Caddy works seamlessly with really any phone model whatsoever. It Velcros onto the cart in seconds, and then you can slide your phone right in, keep your yardage and scoring apps at your fingertips, change music, answer calls and texts, and more, all with the Phone Caddy. It is the most functional way to keep your phone safe and ready on the course at all times. And not only is a Phone Caddy a great gift for any golfer, it can be a great gift to give at golf events or buddies golf trips of all kinds. And for our listeners, you can save 20% off your purchase with the promo code Course of Life. And now you can use that code to save an extra 20% off their Patriotic line, typically excluded from any deal. So you can get 20% off the Phone Caddy to support your fellow veteran, firefighter, or police officer. So again, you can get your phone caddy today with the promo code Course of Life at desertfoxgolf.com. Again, promo code Course of Life to save 20% off your phone caddy at desertfoxgolf.com. And we're back. Great interview there with the Kosher Panda. What an incredible backyard practice setup. I've seen it a lot in her videos and pictures on Instagram. And I'm to use a term, I think the kids still use this term, I'm jelly.
Yeah, you're peanut butter jelly, aren't you? She's got the nice artificial poolside putting green, the net set up, the backyard. And that's always a good way to hone in on your game, especially your short game. It's cool to see her still fall golfing up in Connecticut. You and I know that very well.
Yes.
Shout out to Sleeping Giant Golf Course, right? 9 holes, right, with the campus in the background. That was our spot back in the day. So it's good to see her golfing up there in the fall weather and love the content from the Kosher Panda.
It is pretty incredible. And if you like interviews like that with the Kosher Panda and everything else we do, make sure you give us a rating and subscribe on the podcast app of your choice. It really helps us out. Let us know that you're there. Gets us out there for other people to see. The more people that listen to us, the more stuff we can do. So, It's cyclical. It's cyclical.
Good stuff. Let's get into some football. We'll go college first because I had a bounce back week, finished 5-4. It was very ugly. The theme of last weekend, though, and it might be again this week, Mike, is how long is this college football season going to take? We had 15 games postponed due to COVID positive tests or contact tracing. We could be playing games during the holidays now at this race. So it's definitely slow going for college football at this point.
Yeah, we're going to have a shorter bowl season anyway, so we might as well just have regular season games.
No. So, I love all the crappy bowl games.
I know.
My favorite part of the year.
It's okay, Alex. It's only 2020.
Yeah, maybe we'll only have 30 bowl games instead of 4. What a catastrophe. God. How will I go on? But that's the college update for this week. Let's get to some NFL because I feel like for the first time in a long time, you and I both have some positive updates on our NFL teams. Shocking.
Yeah. Let's start with your Patriots. They won.
Yeah, they beat the Ravens. I'm as shocked as you are, actually. Yeah. They beat Lamar Jackson in an absolute monsoon Sunday Night Football. But now 4-5 Texans coming up. If we can get to Thanksgiving dinner at 5-5, Mike, the season could be back on here. I'm on the bandwagon to 9-7, which sounds really weird as a Patriots fan. But chugga choo choo. Let's see if we can get to 9-7 and sneak in that final wildcard spot. That's
funny. You're on the bandwagon to 9-7. I think the winner of the NFC East may be 7-9.
Yes, I think that's fair, and that might actually be generous.
I think it is.
Take 7 wins
because right now the Giants are in second place in the East after beating the Eagles.
You are right in the race for this crappy division.
3-7. The Eagles are 3-5-1. This is and then the Washington football team lost. The Cowboys, and the Cowboys were off this week. I don't know. I don't pay attention anymore. Yeah. So they're also 2-7. So this is just like this is the NFC East is all the teams that get to go and lose to the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yes, the Nationals, right? The Washington, what was it? The Nationals. That's one of the teams
like that.
All the time. Yeah. But we're going to get to see the NFC East on full display. We'll talk about that next week in our Thanksgiving football preview. Little Cowboys, Reds. Almost said the R word. Cowboys football team. How dare I? Right? That's going to be an absolute bloodbath of a football game for everyone's Thanksgiving dinner plans. We'll get to that next week, but that's the football recap. It's all sunshine for our teams. Shockingly.
It really is. It's pretty incredible. Let's hashtag AlwaysEndWithFood.
Let's do it. Brought to you by Be Free CBD. Promo code is COL30 for 30% off their CBD tinctures. BeFreeCBD.com. Be Free CBD on social as well. And it's part 3 of 4 of our Thanksgiving preview. We're first going to set the table on my end and our end, talking about what sides we're going to do for our Thanksgiving dinner, and then get into a little debate based on a map we saw, Mike. So I'm going very simple for my 3 Thanksgiving sides. They're all vegetables. It's going to be a green beans and bacon. It's going to be a roasted potatoes. And it's going to be my famous creamed corn. I'm going to keep it very down the line. Nothing too crazy. My wife might do the stuffing on the side. What are your plans side-wise next week?
Well, the menu is still evolving. We're still trying to decide what we're actually going to do. And we're actually thinking we're going to do something a little different. We're thinking we're going to do seafood for Thanksgiving.
Oh, wow. What are you, Italian all of a sudden or something? I love that.
Well, no, it'd be a little bit more maybe appropriate for the kind of food they would actually be having during the Thanksgiving feast. So, that's what we're thinking right now. So that obviously the main course will dictate what the sides will be, because I don't think we want mashed potatoes and stuffing and mac and cheese.
Go with something kind of green and garlicky and buttery for sure to go with the seafood. Maybe jazz up some sort of casserole or rice dish or something like that. That always goes well with fish, so you can't go wrong there. Those are yours and my plans for sides on Thanksgiving. Let's talk about the rest of the country though, because you brought my attention to a map which is just perfectly timed for our Thanksgiving month preview here in week 3. We talked about our sides right there. This map basically lays out favorite Thanksgiving sides by state, correct?
Yep. Yes, it does. It's completely and utterly unscientific in any way. I have no idea how they determined this. But just like we showed something similar when we talked about Halloween candy.
Yeah.
However, I will say I feel like this is slightly more appropriate.
It does feel appropriate. Let's get into our states first off. I'm in Texas, green bean casserole, pretty tried and true. Like I said, I'm doing a green beans and bacon. There's a lot of green beans in the South. That seems right. It's fitting. That's a universally known side. And it's pretty much one of the favorites across the country. I see it in about a dozen different states as the favorite. So not surprising.
Yeah. That's true. And then along the Atlantic seaboard where I am in Georgia, it's mac and cheese. And that goes all the way from Georgia up to Delaware.
Pretty impressive.
As the favorite. So that's I don't think I've actually ever had mac and cheese as a side at my Thanksgiving dinner, but I wouldn't be opposed to having it on the table. Let's talk about our home states up in New England. I'll start with New Hampshire, which I agree with here. The number one side they say is cranberry sauce, which my mother made a fantastic, we called it a cranberry chutney. It was just the best thing.
Wow. I mean, you got one made. I'm just popping it out of the can. So that's even more impressive when you get a nice homemade one. So that falls in line, and I'm originally a Massachusetts guy. Stuffing, big in New England, big in New York, big in Pennsylvania. That's just a Northeast thing. It feels like they call it dressing down in states like Alabama, where I see it as the favorite. So
that's what I was going to say. Is that I never really heard it dressing, and when I first heard people calling something dressing, I thought it was something different from stuffing. I don't know why it's called dressing and not stuffing. I don't know.
But speaking of dressing, the one insulting state that we have to talk about, our friends up in Maine have a side salad as the most popular Thanksgiving side. Now, listen, I'm not opposed to having a side salad as a Thanksgiving side, but like as the 6th or 7th most important one, right? That's number one, way too high on the list for a side salad Thanksgiving.
It really is. Can we also just talk about Indiana real quick and their favorite being deviled eggs?
Wow. Yeah, that's a very Midwestern. I mean, very, very app-heavy part of town. They love their snacks, but deviled eggs, we already discussed that a couple weeks ago. That goes out at like 11 a.m., like way pre-dinner. That's not even part of Thanksgiving. That's just an appetizers and snacks to start the day type of thing.
It's true.
Exactly. It's true. So that's what the country thinks of your Thanksgiving sides and your favorites. Everyone send us tweets or Instagrams with your thoughts on your Thanksgiving plans and your favorite sides as well. We will do the final Thanksgiving preview on our desserts as well on next week's Course of Life. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and we'll see you next week.